Hi again, this is Eric Tars, Human Rights Program Director at the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty, reporting back with a quick update. We just got out of the U.S. review at the UPR, and we're both encouraged by the process, a little bit disappointed, and I just wanted to give you the quick update. I'll give a more complete report later this evening. We welcome the engagement that the U.S. government has had with the Council, but with millions of people living on the streets of America, what we need is more than just engagement with the Council. We need engagement with domestic human rights on the ground. We need this process translated in a real right to housing, a right to health care, a right to jobs for people who are suffering in the U.S. And we need all of these rights protected as rights, not just as optional policy considerations. Because the U.S. government hasn't ratified the International Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, this was actually the first opportunity that we've had to engage the government head-on on these rights as rights, and the outcome that we saw was very disappointing. Almost every country at the review told the U.S. that they should ratify the International Covenant on Economic and Social and Cultural Rights, and this emphasizes that the entire rest of the world sees these rights, as justiciable, as things that can be enforced in court. The U.S. is really the outlier here, and the response to the encouragement for this was extremely disappointing. Michael Posner, the Assistant Secretary of State, merely read from the U.S. report almost verbatim the response, which is basically that in the U.S. these rights are viewed as not rights, they're political considerations, they aren't enforceable in courts, and this is completely inadequate, and it doesn't address the questions that the other countries were asking and demanding that we take a rights-based approach to these issues, to housing, to education, to healthcare, things like that. This is despite the fact that more than 3/4 of Americans believe that housing should be a human right, that education should be a human right, that healthcare should be a human right. The American public is there, but the politicians haven't done what's necessary, and until we take that rights-based approach, it's not going to happen. Second, on the floor of the UN, Michael Posner again said that the U.S. is doing a lot to help people suffering in the foreclosure crisis. He said millions of people had been helped by the loan modification program. This is simply untrue. Only about 400,000 people have been helped so far, despite the multi-millions of foreclosures that have been happening. And most advocates agree that the program is completely inadequate, and it's precisely because the economic bailout was not based on the idea that everybody should have a right to stay in their homes or have other adequate housing. The bailout was based on the premise that banks needed to be rescued, and that's why we see this disconnect. All the money has gone to the banks. They haven't been ensuring that people are in their homes. If the government is giving out this money, the banks need to take it with an obligation that they have to refinance those mortgages, keep people in their homes, because otherwise, our government isn't doing its job to protect people's rights to housing. The last thing I wanted to mention was that housing was the #1 issue brought to the U.S. government through the consultation process that occurred before the review here in November. Thousands of people all across the country came to these hearings, talked about housing issues, about homelessness, and the fact that the U.S. government did not send a representative from the Department of Housing and Urban Development is very disappointing. And just last year, the UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Adequate Housing also issued a report talking about the crisis, talking about concrete solutions and recommendations. Neither of these, neither the economic crisis, the foreclosure crisis, nor the recommendations in this report were addressed at all by the U.S. report to the Council, by the U.S.'s presentation today. And the government needs to do much more to ensure that it's taking these rights seriously and engaging in an honest manner with both the U.S. public and with the governments here. So that's the quick update on housing issues. I'll have a full update on all of the day's activities posted later. But again, goodbye and thanks for watching. We'll have many more of these videos to come as we continue to debrief and analyze what's happened here today. Thanks.